When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply. When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
You're listening to the Prescription for Purpose podcast, the go-to space for everyday women to go from surviving to thriving by pursuing a purpose that's truly rooted in faith. And now, we're also becoming the premier space for Christian coaches and therapists to finally learn how to integrate faith into their practice without being churchy or limiting their audience. Each week, we'll merge biblical wisdom with practical everyday application so that you can be empowered to excel in every facet of your life and business. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Prescription for Purpose podcast. I pray that you are having an amazing, amazing day. Friend, I really had to sit down with God after the last couple of episodes and ask him, like, what's up? Why are we going in like this this month? And what God revealed to me is this past Sunday was Father's Day. And there are a lot of his daughters, okay, i.e. us, who are disconnected from him. And so in us having these conversations over the next couple of weeks and the ones that we've had about hearing from God and getting in the word and the barriers, he's really calling us back to him. And so this week, what I want to share is a word that God gave me a little while ago. And I shared it in the society about how there is scar tissue built up in the hearts of his daughters. And there are a lot of us, and I just feel this, that are kind of like disconnected. We don't feel, right? Like we're numb spiritually. We're numb emotionally. And a lot of us are still operating in gifts and kind of sliding under the radar because no one is calling us out. It's me, friend. I'm calling you out. I see you. And you may not inherently be doing anything sinful, but you're not living in the fullness of joy. There's a level of desensitization that the enemy has leveraged because of your disappointments, because of your offenses, because of your unforgiveness. And I don't necessarily mean with people. I mean you being disappointed with God, being offended by God doing or not doing something, and you having a level of unforgiveness in your heart toward God because things don't look the way that you wanted them to look. And so now you've hardened your heart that these wounds that have come about because of these disappointments and this unforgiveness, it's causing scar tissue. And now you are living in a place where you have the appearance of godliness, but the power is missing. You're not experiencing the power of God, and you think that God is withholding something, but really it's us that's been holding back. And what God revealed to me then, and what I will share with you, is that the way that you are going to get through this is through humility. Now, I'm going to keep it $150. I'm going to tell y'all what had happened, okay? Y'all know I've been going through health stuff, all the things. And I found myself just frustrated with a situation that I had going on. And when I tell you, I was getting ready to go smooth off, because I was so mad. And I told my friend, I said, God, I feel like he took me by the ear and pulled me to the floor. And when I tell you I was on the floor crying, friend, I cried out to the Lord. I wept. I cried so much my abs hurt the next day. Do you hear me? Ugly cried. Like, ugly cried for a hot 45 minutes. My husband was like, are you okay? Nope. I will be, though. I will be. And when I got up, God revealed this word to me. Like, there was a new level of sensitivity that I felt toward the Lord. And a lot of us are in this place where scar tissue has built up and it has impeded our ability to feel. We become desensitized the same way that people have become desensitized to violence and everything else. Like, our hearts are becoming that way, and the enemy is leveraging that. And so as I got gathered and then got up and took a shower after I cried, God took me over to 2 Chronicle 7:13 through 15. And I want to share it with y'all. And then we're going to walk through this conversation, because I really believe that there are a lot of us that look like me where you need to be laid out on the floor crying to God. Because that's the only way. Your humility is going to bring you to that point. So in 2 Chronicles 7, I'm going to actually read 11 through 15. It says, so Solomon finished the temple of the Lord as well as the royal palace. He completed everything he had planned to do in the construction of the temple and the palace. Then one night, the Lord appeared to Solomon and said, I have heard your prayer and chosen this temple as the place for making sacrifices. At times, I might shut up the heavens so that no rain falls, or command grasshoppers to devour your crops, or send plagues among you. Then, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sins and restore their land. My eyes will be open and my ears attentive to every prayer made in this place. So good. What God showed me particularly, and what I feel like God is showing a lot of us here and that listen to this platform, that listen to this podcast, is we're really good at intellectualizing how we feel, but we don't like to feel our feelings. And so we have built up these walls. We've built up these barriers, and we call ourselves setting boundaries, but it's really barriers. And in that, you not only call yourself protecting your heart from disappointment, from unforgiveness, from all of that, but you also aren't able to now feel joy, happiness, and the fullness of everything that God has for you. And so in order for you to get back to a space where you move from existing to living, you are going to have to come to God and really lament, really allow him to destroy those barriers, because it's his job to protect us, not us. And we don't like the risk and the vulnerability that we often feel when we are coming to God and dealing with people and having to be in these relationships. You feel like you are out there, but that is the cost. And the enemy wants us to be desensitized. He wants to use these wounds and wants to cause scar tissue in our lives. And we have to go to God and lament before him. I was on the ground for a good hot 45 minutes. And to lament simply means that you are honestly expressing sorrow, grief, regret, and you're directing all of this to God. What things are you hurt about? What things have passed away, relationships. I don't even mean physically. What opportunities have died? What relationships have died that you have not really sat with God and said, God, I'm grieving this. I'm grieving this situation. I'm grieving this part of my flesh that has to be crucified. I need to talk to you about this. What things have you done that you have regretted, that you have not come to the Father, but you've built this barrier around your heart, and now you can't even feel anymore? We have to acknowledge and confront our pain. We have to acknowledge and confront our disappointment. We have to acknowledge and confront our struggles in order for us to really understand and feel the totality of God's presence and his comfort. When you come to God and you lament, it's not just about you airing your grievances, but it's about you being vulnerable and laying your burdens before God and creating a space so he can heal you. When you're sick, you go to the doctor. And a lot of us have these wounds built up because we have not gone to the great physician and allowed him to minister to our heart. The word says that he mends the broken heart. And a lot of us pick up our own pieces, and you want to be strong and do all things through through Christ who strengthens you, but you haven't allowed him to minister to your heart, to be the great physician, to put you back together. Okay, Humpty Dumpty, let him put you back together, friend. Because we try to force these things together, and what happens is we allow scar tissue to build up. Scar tissue in the natural, it happens as a part of your body's healing process. So if there's an injury, if there's surgery or trauma, and you have scar tissue, the body starts producing these collagen fibers to repair the damage, and there is scar formation. Sometimes it overgrows. When you look at scar tissue in the body, it's denser and less flexible than normal tissue. It lacks the original structure and function of the tissue that it replaces, and that causes complications. Scar tissue impacts blood flow because there is fewer blood vessels than in normal tissue. So there's reduced oxygen, reduced nutrient supply to that area, and it can slow down the healing process and cause discomfort or pain. There are literally people who have scar tissue buildup and have to go back in for revision surgery because there's so much scar tissue. Then internally, that scar tissue can cause adhesions, and that's where the tissues start to stick together. And it can lead to pain, restricted movement, dysfunction to the affected organ or muscle. And then the scars are also visible. And that impacts people's appearance, self-esteem, and it can really cause a limit in the range of motion, as well as cause ongoing discomfort. And a lot of us look like this spiritually. A lot of us have spiritual scar tissue. And now you're not flexible, you're not feeling, your self-esteem has been impacted. You aren't even able to function the way that you used to because you've learned how to deal with this limited range of motion in the spirit. So you're not even as effective as you as you once were, or as you could be, not because of anything that you've done sinfully, but you have refused to let go. You've allowed your pride to get you in a place where you're trying to fix your own emotions. You're trying to just deal instead of going to God and laying them at his feet because he's a good father. So you're going through the motions and other people don't see you, but boo, because I am you and you are me and we are she together. I see you. I see you. People are so used to your excellence that they don't see you hurting. People are so used to you operating at a high level that you are really good at skating by. I see you. God sees you. Spiritual scar tissue, it often forms when we have those emotional wounds, betrayal, loss, prolonged stress, trauma. And then those experiences leave these deep impressions in our hearts, in our minds, and they negatively impact our spiritual well-being. So now we're less flexible because we have this spiritual scar tissue. Now we're not experiencing the same level of emotional and spiritual growth. We're not only not feeling negative emotions. So something traumatic happens, you shed one thug tear and you like, I'm all right. To God be the glory, and keep it pushing. David was lamenting, tore his clothes on the floor. But when you have this scar tissue, you create this barrier to protect yourself. And now you don't even experience joy. You don't experience peace, and you don't experience the same level of intimacy with God. And now on top of you feeling and holding and dealing with all of these emotional and mental and spiritual wounds, you feel like God is forsaking you, and that is not the truth.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
There's just a level of sensitivity that you've lost because of this scar tissue. You have to understand that when we allow these spiritual scars to take place and we don't come to God and allow Him to sew it and mend it back together properly. Okay, I could get into all of the details with making sure the wound edges are approximated and all the things. And there's the right amount of tension that you put on the sutures to make sure that you don't have keloids and scar tissue and all of that in the physical. But a lot of us jerry-rig our emotional health back together. And now we have this scar tissue. And so now we're dealing with this restriction of the flow of God's love and grace in our lives. Not that the flow is bad, but because of the vessel, because of the restriction, because of the adhesions, we don't feel it. We don't trust God fully now. We don't feel His presence now. We don't experience the fullness of His blessings, not the material things, but even just His peace, Him waking us up. There's a level of gratitude that we lose and reverence that we lose because we've been scarred. And now we have these adhesions. It's attaching to other areas of our lives. So now you're not doing ministry the way that you once were. Now you're not showing up at work the way that you once did. Now you're having issues in your relationships with your friends because that scar tissue is attaching itself to other areas of your life because you can't just not feel in one particular thing. It's everywhere. God's like, Sharla, you're not just protecting yourself from the wounds. You can't experience the fullness of joy because there's scar tissue here. So now you feel isolated. Now you're not even wanting to engage in community. You're not coming to small group. You're not showing up in the society. You're not calling your friend for prayer call. You're not praying anymore, but you're still showing up for ministry. You can show up on prayer call for other people and pray the walls down, but your spiritual vitality, your own spiritual life, dead. Because all of this scar tissue is restricting the flow. And now, because of all of these spiritual scars that you have, the way you see yourself and your worth and your value has been diminished. You no longer see yourself as the workmanship of God. You no longer see yourself as a daughter of God, but now shame has come in. You feel unworthy. You're talking crazy to yourself.
And you've now even allowed your scars to distort the way that you see God's character, his intentions, and who he is. And it's exactly what the enemy wants, friend. It's exactly what the enemy wants. And God is calling you to come back. The way that we heal scar tissue in the physical therapy, medical treatment, right? The way that God is calling you to come back is through lamenting. You need to sit with God, turn on some music, worship him, and be honest. Let the tears fall. I don't know who needs to hear this, but friend, like, it's okay to cry, and you should be crying. I mean, I was on the flow, crying, snotting. It was ugly, as it should have been. Lamenting. It's not about a show. It is about you showing up and allowing God the ability to heal every ugly part. You don't have to be perfect to show up for him, because he's our Father and he loves us. I'm going to give y'all the word. So here's some scriptures for you. Psalm 34, 17 through 18. The righteous cry out and the Lord hears them. He delivers them from all their troubles. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. When you lament, you are drawing closer to God, and he hears your cries, and he offers comfort and deliverance. And when you look at even what it means when it says that God is close to the brokenhearted, it means that you are experiencing him to where your condition changes after leaving his presence. That's what it means in the Hebrew when you talk about the word close. It means that your condition now changes. And this is the psalm that David wrote when he is out here just before, like, he's mad, okay? Driven mad. And the Lord hears him, sees him in his affliction. When it says that God is near you, a close encounter expected to end with a significant result. And lamenting is the thing. You crying out to God is the place where that happens. Psalm 147:3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. You have things that you have refused to let God deal with, and it's negatively impacting your life. Negatively impacting your relationship with God. You're saved, but you're not experiencing all of the benefits because you're not all the way in the relationship. You're not being vulnerable with God. And your healing is attached to it. It says that he heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Every painful spot, the wound, it says, causing a piercing sense of anguish, grief-stricken, troubled within by something which takes a deep toll, very tiresome, laborious anguish, as grief wears someone down. You are tired, burnt out, and burdened because you have not come to God and lamented. Because in you crying out to God, your healing is there. Lamentations, there is a whole book about lamenting. Lamentations 3, 22 through 24. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion, therefore I will wait on him. Even when you're dealing with overwhelming grief, God's love and faithfulness is going to continue to provide the renewal that you need. And the way that you get that is through lamenting and crying out to him. We don't have to be the strong friend. Not in this relationship. This is the place. God don't get tired of hearing from you. God don't care that it's the same situation. He's going to continue to love on and minister to and mend your heart in every area. He is not like man. He will not fail you. And you are looking for and crying out to God and telling him that you need him. And he needs you to be willing to give him every broken place, every scarred place. Matthew 11:28-30. Come to me. Come to me. Notice that it doesn't say that God pull up on you and give me all this. No. We have to have enough humility. We have to humble ourselves. Pride will make you think that you got this. Come to him. Jesus said, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. You want relief? You want real relief? That doesn't mean the situation goes away, but you have peace that surpasses all understanding. You have to learn how to lament. You have to stop allowing pride to make you think that you got this. You don't have to have it. That is the beautiful thing about this relationship with God. This is for all my strong friends. You're not that strong. And that's okay. Because it's in our weakness that God's strength is proven to us. It's made known to us. You don't have to be strong here. You're carrying burdens that don't even belong to you. And you're buckling under pressure because you just need to learn how to cry out for your Father. And I know that we have experienced natural relationships, whether it be fathers, mothers, like daddy issues, mommy issues, grandmama issues, spouse issues, whatever it may be, where people have failed you. I'm telling you, God will not ever fail you. He has not ever failed. There's a disconnect because of the scar tissue. When you have scar tissue and you have to go back in for revision surgery, they have to go in and cut those adhesions out. And this is why you have to come and lament before God, and you have to get in your word. The Bible says that the word is sharper than a two-edged sword. So you have to allow the word of God to minister to you. Once you get done crying and you get up, you have to allow the word of God to minister to your heart and to help heal you, for God to revive you and to give you a heart of flesh, a new heart of flesh where you can feel and you're going to be okay. So I'm going to put a pin in this here. We're going to come back next week and dive deep into 2 Chronicles 7:13-15. But your homework this week, friend, is to go lay before God. Turn on some Dappy Keys. Turn on Worth. I'm going to actually link my Spotify playlist in the show notes. Like, get before your Father. And don't get up until you have poured your heart out to him, because the enemy is trying to rob you from experiencing the fullness of joy by you having these barriers. And you're calling them boundaries, but it's not. There's a difference between barriers and boundaries. So I pray that you hear my heart, but more importantly, you hear the heart of God, who is calling his daughters to come back to him. I love you, friend. Do your homework. I'm telling you, I ain't been the same since. This is the time for you to take off the mask, lay before God, and just cry. You don't need to have a full-on Bible study. This ain't the time for you to pick up your sword. Cry first and then pick up your sword after and let God minister to you. For my intellectualizers, I didn't say go study. I said go cry out to your Father and pour out your heart to him. Don't turn this into an intellectual exercise. You need to allow yourself to feel the grief, the disappointment, because God can handle it all. And he will give you a garment of praise for a spirit of heaviness. And there's so many of us walking around with a mask on, and we're heavy and burdened, and it's showing up in the way that we show up. And other people can't tell, but God can. You don't have to sacrifice your life because Jesus already did. You can experience joy, peace, patience, kindness, all of that. It's a part of the package. That's the real blessing. Not no car, not no man, but the freedom and the love of God pulsating through your body and sustaining you. That's what you need to experience. You want to go get your stuff? Go get that stuff, because I promise you, God will reignite a fire on the inside of you like never before if you humble yourself and allow him to heal you. So, friend, I pray that you hear me. I pray that you hear God and that you follow through with the instruction. We're going to come back next week and we're going to break down 2 Chronicles 7:13 through 15. But I just hear God so deeply saying to put a pin in it, because this is all the information that you need right now. This is the instruction. Go to the feet of your Father. Make time. Prioritize this. I don't care if you have to do it every day until you get the breakthrough that you need. Show up, because when we draw close to God, he will draw close to us. So I love you, friend. God bless you. And I will talk to you next week.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.